Okay, we finally got that red day on Friday. Had a nice sell off. But we have gapped right back up Monday morning now. We are essentially right at those highs. So, it's kind of washed all that away. At this point, you got to be thinking. We're getting past this all-time highs. This is kind of, we're back in that crazy market where it's just gonna go up, and this Nvidia's probably gonna go crazy. Microsoft, really, if the Bitcoin goes, that's what I want to talk about. Some of these miner names, today's earnings for them, I'm not sure if it's pre-market or post, but some of these miners are releasing earnings today, and these charts look so prime. This is WULF. There's a couple of these. CIFR. You got Wolf, you got CFIR. This IREN, but I think we figured that was it Australia? I'd prefer to just keep it US stocks. So a couple of these miners look really nice. I'm most focused on Wolf. So the earnings, obviously, we're waiting on that. Bitcoin overall, I'm watching Coin. So that's the biggest watch right now. We still have SMMT, even though the volume kind of stinks. This is setting up for another leg up. So I wouldn't. This isn't off radar yet. This is definitely still a watch. We're kind of looking for another one of these to kind of take place in here for that next leg up. I just want to highlight this Zim again. I mean, this was an absolute monster. And like I pointed out way back on this weekly 1 year, I knew there was potential to get up here, but it's one of those things, it's tough prior to the trade to really hold for that type of move, but this was beautiful. Basically, we've had like 15 days in a row going up except for one, so this was just a big one. I had a feeling too with the Israel. I believe this is Israel shipping, so it's perfectly positioned with all this news that's going on. But just wanted to kind of, toot my own horn there. That was a good call. DNUT, kind of losing interest with this one, even though it's big picture, like I'd said. It's a great trade off this 1280 zone. But in terms of a day trade, right now, I'm just not really seeing it. But big picture, it's a nice swing long with that 1280 risk, or maybe this 1250 zone. This EBS I've been kind of watching. Had the big volume here, 150 mil, and now it's consolidating tight up here. I don't really like these entries up at these elevated levels, but with that type of volume, and it has kind of a decent little 1 year chart. It's popped out of this activity from back in 2019 back here, so not as good. If you look at Zim on the 1 year, same time frame, but you can see it had these levels to break through or to at least challenge, whereas EBS, you can see just so much more overhead resistance back here. Even though the volume is very small, it's just not as visually as appealing. But in terms of a day trade, I mean, potentially could see one last little blowout up till that 5 zone. But tight risk on this one. 420 is kind of that line in the sand that you would really this 3-day low, this 420 area, you'd want to have a stop loss in that zone, because you never know with these ones. These things can go down just as fast as they came up. So EBS, little side note, the Piton I've been talking about, I'm still just watching this for a short, but it's got some, it has good visual action. That's what I like about Piton. So in time, this could be a nice short. They've had some news past couple days, so keep an eye on that one. This NVAX had some crazy news, or it had some news, big crazy gap up here, so I'll keep an eye on that. Let's take a look through the cannabis. The cannabis sector is still kind of trying to recover from that big spike and then the huge fade. So that could have been a kind of a pop and then a sell in news. But like I've been saying, this still has potential for more legs up. It just needs to kind of gather itself here a little bit. We could see more on that. Also the MNMD, kind of along the cannabis theme, lower volume, but this one's starting to shape up good. This is I believe some sort of mushroom psychedelic company. But another interesting daily, and this kind of has that moving average look, that squeezer. So this is very interesting. So if we see, it's kind of tricky because the cannabis, yeah, I mean, they do kind of go in line. I've also brought this up a few weeks ago, this CYBN. This in some ways is related to the MNMD. They, I guess, produce some sort of product that they sell. So it's kind of like a lottery psychedelic play here for very cheap. Not as nice of a looking chart, but I'm kind of watching those two together. But that MNMD, this looks interesting. So I gotta look at the news here, but another nice looking play there. I think that's all I have for the immediate trades. We'll look through these. Let's look through the EV real quick. So like we were saying, we had the Tesla gap. I wasn't really sold on this type of action to chase, and luckily we had that pullback. Now this could be the pullback I was talking about to potentially move in for long here, but it's just tricky with these EV names, you know. It's one of those things where I'm not really sold on the overall idea of driving an electric car, but that doesn't mean that the trade's not going to be there. So EV, still keeping our eyes on it. Those lithium names, this Alt-M, I like this Alt-M. So we got some plays developing, and we will keep it posted.